Hello, I'm John Naylor from Foiling Frenzy, and this little series, it's actually a reshoot, but I'm recovering some ground. I did a video series back at like 80 hours of foiling. This is now 300 hours, and I'm sharing with you and resharing some content about making progress through the foiling, prone surf foiling sport. So in this one, I want to talk about getting advice. Now, there's no question you want to get some good advice, and I'll have a couple of pointed things to talk about. Because let's face it, you go out and talk to someone who's out there in the wave, who's a pro foiler, and is showing you his rig, and you're out behind the thing, you're thinking about getting into foiling, and you're on your longboard, say, oh, what's this? And they're proud as punch. You know, we love our foil boards, so there's nothing more special than showing that off. Now, is that the best advice when they show you some flash bit of rig? No, because you don't want to just go out and buy a high aspect wing and a super small board and a really tall mast, and I'll show you some of the differences in this video. So getting advice, make sure you get in touch with. Now, I was lucky, and I'm going to name him, James from Conrad. Actually became a friend at the time that I got into this sport, and he's actually a manufacturer of this stuff. So I'm riding on Conrad stuff, really adoring it and really loving the progression. But he was like, no, look, you don't want that high spec wing, and you don't want a tall mast, you know, because you're going to go out and catch foam. Now let's show you what that actually means. Is that type of advice about the beginner rig is really a bit different. So I've covered this in another video already, but let's look at, say, the bad boy that I'm riding now, which is that one's in the way, so I'll just get rid of it. But so there's a 4'6" board. It's got a 75 centimeter mast, and it's got a medium aspect wing. So this is where I'm up to now. World of pain, I assure you, world of pain. But what instead I started on, and probably stayed on a bit too long, was this fellow. And it's got a few bruises, a few dings, but we won't worry about that because that's all part of it. But so 5 foot board was right for my weight, got good advice about that. Also here, a shorter mast. In fact, it says 70 centimeters, but it's not. It's actually cut down, and this is actually more like 55 centimeters. What does that mean? It means you spend less time hitting sandbars when you're catching frothy waves at the outset. So short mast. Also, this mast is set well back. As you can see, it's way back in its track, so that you're actually generating not a lot of lift. You're lying on the board, catching a wave because there's some foam that's picked you up and taken you off, and you're able to keep the foil pinned down. Now on the bottom here, big, round surf foil. The Sopwith Camel, the sort of old school aeroplane version of foiling. This bad boy's got a big sweet spot in it, so it's really friendly to ride on. So if you're gonna get up and away, you're going to do it on a surf foil low aspect wing to start with, is my advice. Now, other people would say, no, go straight to high aspect. And if you're a freak, go for it, you know. If you like getting piled on or catching waves that roll you over, sure, go for it. But in my world, as a novice, and I'm coming at this from an absolute novice point of view, is that you start on a big board, a short mast, a big low aspect foil, and then you're going to catch more waves, and that's the key when you start out. Because let's face it, you know, people aren't going to be around you, and you're going to become a bit erratic with your behaviours, but you're going to be there on days that are just rubbish, and no one else is foiling around you, no one's surfing around you. You're out with an onshore breeze, it's blowing the tops off things, the waves are rolling over the top of you, but you just have to progress, so you're just out there every day. So, but anyway, in sum, make sure you get the right advice. Make sure you buddy up with someone who you really trust, who's going to coach you through this process and see you through to the end, because that's going to help you progress if you've got someone. And look, let's face it, there's the other thing of getting around that, is as you start to progress, one thing I've noticed here, and this is the Gold Coast foiling community here, Gold Coast, Australia, is what I've enjoyed is that the people into the sport are really frothy about it. So they're going to also, as you're out there doing things, they're going to come over and give some recommendations to you. So take them with a grain of salt, but do listen and say, is that right for me? You know, and integrate that into your progression, because it's such a fine art, I assure you. 300 hours in, and I'm lucky to ride 200 meters. I'm not pumping that effectively. I'm certainly not linking up waves. There's a whole lot of progress in front of me, but I'm in there, I'm committed. But I'm taking the advice. Take it with a grain of salt, but listen carefully and say, hey, I've heard that from 2 or 3 people, so I really should try that. Anyway, that's enough on getting advice. We'll see you in the next video. I'm John Naylor from Foiling Frenzy.